insurer care.
Oh, hello. This is Helen Parr. Bob Parr is my husband. I was wondering if you could give me the number of the hotel he's staying at. The number that I have is no good.
Mr. Parr no longer works at insurer care.
What do you mean? He's on a business trip. A company retreat.
My records say his employment was terminated almost 2 months ago.
So you don't know where he is? Would you like to find out?
When I saw Marvel choose David Jonsson as the new Black Panther over every fan cast that the general public has been campaigning for, I was very skeptical. But then I saw him hugging Letitia Wright, and I was like, there's no fucking way. Marvel just casted this dude as the next Black Panther. That was my first initial knee-jerk reaction. It wasn't because I thought he was a bad actor or whatever. It had nothing to do with his talent. The cause of the knee-jerk reaction was because Marvel had built 10 years of this image of the Black Panther in my head, and the optics didn't show that that's what they were staying consistent to. You guys remember this scene right here in Avengers Infinity War, where we see Black Panther and Captain America run in full speed at the head of the battle. I don't think people really appreciate why this scene was so iconic. It wasn't necessarily because they were running towards the army and being brave. It was the comparison between two guys that look like equals. They're both enhanced humans, they're both great leaders, and they both carry the weight of their nation on their shoulders. And physically, they look equally yoked. When you see these two standing next to each other, you don't question if they belong on the same field. You see that physically, they look like peers and they belong in the same conversation if it were to come down to who would win in a hand-to-hand combat. It's like the same feeling like when Rocky is standing next to Apollo Creed or Iron Man and Rhodey. They have different personalities, different journeys, but physically and just aesthetically, they match. And that's how the Black Panther was presented to me. He didn't seem like just another superhero. He was part of these superheroes and someone that could hold his own in the Avengers. So when I saw David Jonsson, it wasn't anything that had to do with his direct talent, but how would this guy look within the Avengers, and could he pull his weight? And to be honest, it was because of the height discrepancy. As you can see, David Jonsson is noticeably smaller than Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman was around 6 feet, and when he stood next to Captain America or Thor, he looked like he belonged there, and they didn't look imposing over him. Whether people want to admit that or not, that's one of the things that made Black Panther look physically imposing as well too. Now, obviously size doesn't determine strength. I mean, a perfect example is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is stronger than both those two combined, Black Panther and Captain America. But the difference is Spider-Man is a superhuman. Captain America and Black Panther are enhanced humans. They don't have the out-of-the-world strength that Spider-Man, Hulk, or Thor have. But Black Panther and Captain America operate a little bit differently. They're presented as the absolute peak of human potential and performance. But since they're not operating in the superhuman realm, the aesthetic and the optics of looking physically competitive matter a lot more. That doesn't mean that a shorter Black Panther can't be dangerous, but it just means that Marvel needs to be more intentional about how they present David Jonsson's Black Panther. The problem isn't if shorter people can't be strong, it's just compared to the people that he's gonna be around, will it look convincing? That criticism is understandable. The second criticism, however, is not. A lot of people have been pushing Damson Idris to become the Black Panther for as long as we found out that they were trying to look for a new actor to replace Chadwick. And so when David Jonsson was cast, the first thing that they mentioned was the fact that he doesn't look attractive enough to become the Black Panther. And that's a very shallow argument, because that completely is irrelevant when it comes to how is this person going to perform. I have my personal reasons of why I didn't really support Damson becoming the Black Panther. If you want to see that, you can check that out on my old post. But that's what people have had in their mind since the beginning of this conversation. But one thing that you guys keep forgetting is David Jonsson isn't playing T'Challa. He's playing Toussaint, T'Challa's son. That is a completely different character who has his own personality, his own different upbringing, and his own journey to becoming the Black Panther. And when that initial knee-jerk reaction went away about his height, I realized that, hold on, this could actually be an amazing casting decision for Marvel. And that David Jonsson, despite all the hate that he's getting right now, actually is in the best position that he could possibly be. Right now, people aren't judging his performance, they're judging his appearance and the fan casting that didn't happen. And that's why Marvel just created the perfect underdog story. Funny thing about being an underdog is that no one expects anything from you. You're starting from ground zero. When an audience enters a movie expecting greatness, they are a lot more focused on every flaw, every inconsistency, everything becomes magnified. But when audiences expect you to fail, the opposite happens. Every good scene surprises them, every emotional moment catches them off guard, and then every expectation that you exceeded becomes another reason for them to reconsider their initial views about you. And that is the position that David Jonsson is in right now. People aren't talking about, let's see how his performance is. They're saying he's too short, it's not attractive enough, he's not Damson Idris. No one's really addressing the one question, whether if he can pull off a compelling character that is Toussaint as the Black Panther. So we're going to talk about two films that show me that David Jonsson is going to be an amazing Black Panther, and how these two films display his natural skill set and his ability to own his characters. I've seen David Jonsson in two movies, Alien Romulus and The Long Walk. In both of those films, I absolutely loved his characters. In Alien Romulus, David Jonsson plays Andy, an android whose sole purpose is to protect Rain. That was my first introduction to that actor as well. I forgot her name, but she was an amazing character and showed her talent as well too. If you guys watch Beef, she's also amazing in that show. From the beginning, Andy doesn't seem like he should be the emotional center as a robot, but he completely takes the spotlight, and David Jonsson is able to convey humanity in something that's supposed to have zero traces of that. And that just shows you the skill and the ability that David Jonsson has to make his character convey emotional weight without saying anything. By the end of the movie, you start to care about this robot who literally doesn't have any feelings, but somehow gets you to understand his attachment to Rain and his protectiveness of her. In that same movie, David, as Andy, does another 180 to play another distinct character, and both those different sides of Andy were equally as compelling. He plays the exact same character but conveys them so distinctively that you would think it was another character in the movie, and that was extremely impressive to see him do. So if David Jonsson can make a machine grab the audience and make him have an emotional connection, what do you think he can do with a real person and an African prince? That is more important, in my opinion, than looking intimidating, because it adds another layer of depth to the character. His acting is going to be done as Toussaint, not the Black Panther. The next film that I watched David Jonsson in was The Long Walk. After seeing this movie, it reinforced my perception about David Jonsson's acting and why he's so versatile. In The Long Walk, David Jonsson was able to display his charisma, vulnerability, carry emotional weight throughout this entire film. His chemistry with Cooper Hoffman, who also did a phenomenal job in this movie, demonstrated a friendship that looked like it was developed for years and not something that was manufactured for a film. When a film can make you feel like the characters have been friends for a very long time, that creates a larger emotional weight to when things happen to them and whatever happens to their friendship. And David Jonsson's ability to display such a good friend in this movie was one of the best parts about this. He wasn't overacting. He wasn't trying to put a spotlight on his role. He simply existed in that role, and it conveyed a lot of natural and quiet confidence that just showed that he knew what he was doing. You can train actors to become better fighters, choreography, improve their accent, build muscle, etc. But screen presence is a gift that a lot of actors try to manufacture, but there's just some people that got it. And David Jonsson, when you watch him, has that it factor, and he displays this extremely well in The Long Walk. When David Jonsson is introduced in his role as Toussaint, as soon as the lights turn off and the movie begins, all those preconceived notions about how his appearance is going right out the window. Once you become emotionally invested in a character, your brain stops measuring them against everyone else and focusing on what they're actually doing in the movie. You're not going to be comparing him to Chadwick. You're not going to be comparing him to Damson. You're going to be paying attention to how much is this person drawing me into their character right now. And if David Jonsson could make characters carry emotional weight and make fans care about these characters like he did with Andy and the character he portrayed in The Long Walk, this initial reaction and conversation will be completely irrelevant. Now, we still can't ignore the fact that optically there will be this height discrepancy when he's standing next to some of these heroes and what we're used to. So what can Marvel do to compensate for that? And I have a couple of suggestions. The worst thing that Marvel could do is try to replicate Chadwick's Black Panther and try to make him fit in that mold. Instead of make him fit in that mold that has, a larger frame and focuses on power, what they could do is focus on making this Black Panther the most technically competent fighter that we've seen, as well as increase his speed, making him more unpredictable, more agile, and someone that's just difficult to hit. Leaning more into the Panther instead of the blow for blow tank. Giving him more access to his vibranium technology that Shuri created for him, right? And seeing more of that. This would make this Black Panther still formidable without having to rely on pure physical strength. It would make him completely unique and a fresh breath of a new Black Panther that we haven't seen before. Toussaint is going to be different from T'Challa, and I think that's honestly the only way that this would have worked. If it was T'Challa and he was a replacement of T'Challa, this would have been a different conversation. It would have been a lot more difficult to replicate Chadwick Boseman. This opportunity that David Jonsson has to play a completely different Black Panther, I believe that will be his big break in Hollywood cinema, where he's able to display his talent. Another reason why David Jonsson was chosen was the fact that Brian Coogler values the kind heart, the passion, and the humbleness that David Jonsson showed them. And I think this is a big part for a character like the Black Panther and someone that could bring that type of energy that Chadwick brought. I think that's what they were looking for. With David Jonsson, I haven't seen him much in the tabloids or anything, but when you do watch his interviews and you see him speak and how he talks about acting, you can see that this guy genuinely loves the art form of acting and wants to focus on being the best actor that he can be. And that humbleness adds to that charisma. It's the same thing that Chadwick was able to do as well. Reason being that we love Chadwick wasn't just because he played the Black Panther, it was just how he conducted himself outside of Hollywood and how he treated people, how he spoke, his elegance and his regard for others. And that's why when he passed, it was such a sad and monumental thing, because people felt that weight of losing such a kind-spirited person. I believe that David Jonsson has that type of spirit as well too, of just being someone that is kind, blocks out the noise, and just wants to do a good job at his craft. And we can't say the same for others, all right? I'm not going to say names, but some of the fan castings A lot of these guys do not display that character trait. They would have gone to someone that didn't deserve it. So ultimately, David Jonsson doesn't have the pressure of meeting extreme expectations. He has the opportunity to exceed really low ones and surprise a lot of these people that were turned off by the idea of him becoming the Black Panther in the first place. His performance is incredible in the Black Panther along with Denzel's, and he's able to get on the same level of acting as that. People are going to leave the theater absolutely shocked, having to put their foot in their mouths because of their initial reaction. We've seen this several times with actors that were not initially the public pick for the role, but ended up being the best fit possible. Heath Ledger as Joker, Robert Pattinson as the Batman, Daniel Craig as 007. I'm not saying that this is a guarantee that David Jonsson is going to be an amazing Black Panther and he's going to blow us away with his performance, but I have a lot of optimism and confidence in his ability from his previous movies, how he conducts himself, and his ability to make a character his own and memorable. If David Jonsson fails, people are just going to say that they were right. But if he succeeds, this entire conversation, the beginning of his height, his appearance completely goes away. And the only thing that will be remembered is the fact that everybody underestimated him.